Sorry.
Hi
I don't know.
everyone.
Yeah, go ahead.
From I am currently in Atlanta, Georgia, and of course, there are lights around me, so I'm sure you can see me sunny and bright, but it's very dark outside. I can tell you, it's early morning, 7 a.m. So good morning from my side, and this is Sanjay Segal. Many of you who are joining me from on my channel, you already know about me. I call myself as a heartful entrepreneur, an entrepreneur who works heartfully, who works, who manages, raises money, invests money, and does a lot of things with, and everything behind everything that I do is that element of heartfulness involved in it. And so today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make the right pitch to your investor. Now, what qualifies me to teach you or to tell you about it? I have done about 4 companies where I have raised money. So I think, you know, whether those companies have been successful or not, of course, that is a discussion on some other day. We will talk about that. But I have raised total of, I think I would say $150 million across all those companies, pitched to perhaps thousands of investors, thousands of VCs in US, mostly in US, some in India. And lately I have started, investing in some companies, again, both in US and in India. I'm also a limited partner of some venture funds. So I think with all in all, I mean, I've perhaps seen, I would say, a couple of thousand pitches myself. Pitches meaning the deck that you prepare, a PowerPoint deck that you prepare, and I have seen thousands of those in my life. So I think I can attempt to tell you what is a right pitch or how to make a right pitch. Now, there is no set formula. That's one thing. I mean, to me, a right pitch is the one which tells the right emotional story, especially in today's time when every investor is given thousands of pitches. I mean, in their lifetime, if not in a month. But I mean, even in a month, in a week, generally, I remember when I was with a venture firm for 6 months or so, we used to get about 300 or so pitches via email and via our website and other ways, right? So to go through all those pitches, I mean, you spend perhaps 2 minutes looking at a pitch. If it connects, you take it forward, or else you drop it. So the most important thing in every pitch is telling a right emotional story that connects well with the investor, right? So we'll talk more about it, but I think, I mean, that's kind of how I wanted you to get started with your pitch. That think about how are you going to tell your story, because without a story there is no script. Without a script there is no movie, as they say, right? So look at your pitch, not that you are going to tell them everything about what you're doing, how you're doing, and of course I'm going to go through various steps. But let's talk slide by slide. Slide one of your pitch deck may have your logo, may have your tagline. They say the maximum time in any pitch, in any pitch made to any investor, maximum time is spent on the first slide. What does that first slide have? Usually a logo and a tagline. Why do you spend most time on that? Because that's where you open your story. Well, then, story ka opening scene, I mean, movie ka opening scene, where the hero is introduced. I mean, you can see I watch a lot of movies, but that is the most important slide for you, because that's where you make the connect with the investor. I'm going to tell you how to do that, some ideas on that. Before that, there's one other thing I want to tell you. Always make sure your investor pitch and your customer pitch are two different pitches. What the customer is looking for, he already has a problem, right? Customer is already has a problem. So he's interested in your solution, price, how are you going to sell it to him. He's not interested in the team. He's not interested in, you know, you describing him the problem and all that. He already has a problem. Whereas an investor, think of an investor as a 10-year-old person. Remember, a 10-year-old person who may or may not necessarily know your industry. So now I'm describing a persona of an investor and how you're going to connect to him, right? So think of an investor as a 10-year-old hyper kid, hyperactive kid who may or may not necessarily know about your industry. And now you're going to open your slide and tell him a story. An ideal way now, or one of the ideal ways to tell a story: I was here, I saw a problem firsthand. One example: I'm a marketing guy. I worked for a company for 25 years, 10 years, 5 years, 10 months, and I saw everybody making these pitch decks using PowerPoint, trying to find these whatever this Shutterstock images and this and that and all that. And I used to make 10 pitches a week or 10 presentations a week, and I had to start all over again every time I did. So I thought, why not come up with something, that has templates and images already built in? Perfect pitch for something like Canva. I'm sure many of you use Canva, right? Canva is I mean, that company is now worth tens of billions of dollars. How do you think that guy would have invested or started his investor pitch the way I'm describing? I used to do this, used to be troubled by it, pain and response, they say. Pain. Describe the pain that you felt yourself. It doesn't have to be that I saw a hungry kid on the street. No, it has to be a problem that you saw while working, problem you saw while making chapatis. Perfect pitch for Rotimatic, right? I used to see my mom making chapati, phul nahi rahi hai, ye nahi ho raha hai, wo nahi. Things are not happening. I mean, that you want chapati to do, or chai maker. Now, another idea for a perfect chai maker. Chai never comes consistently good all the time. So, how do you solve that problem? Describe the problem. Every time I would make tea, you know, or the stove will become dirty, chai will overboil, chai will underboil, chai color is not good. In enterprise, I mean, I have done most of my companies that I did were more enterprise level, that I'm trying to transfer data is taking long time and is getting stuck and buffering this that. So describe the problem in the first slide. That is your chance to emotionally connect by telling a story to your investor. Now you got his interest. Now you go to the next slide. In the next slide, you describe the problem. Spend more time in describing the problem as if you're describing to a 10-year-old who doesn't know anything about your industry. Assume that. Don't assume that he already knows about your industry. Or you can ask him first, but always assume that he doesn't know anything about your industry. So avoid using buzzwords. Very important. People start using that, this, that. I'm not talking buzzwords like ROI and value prop and all. Those guys, they know these buzzwords pretty well, but not your industry specific buzzwords. Often I've seen pitches have all these industry specific buzzword, and I'm wondering, man, scratching my head, what is GSR? What is GSM? What is this? I don't know those things. So assume that 10-year-old guy, emotionally connect to him. Next, come to describing the problem in more detail. Half of your job is done if he thinks of this to be a genuine problem which a lot of people might be facing. You have described the story coming from your point of view, how you faced it. Now you talk about the industry, how industry is facing that problem. Once he understood the problem, then you come to the solution, how you are solving it. Now, once you have described your solution, then I think the things that I have mentioned many times: why you, why now? Why are you the most qualified person? You, when I say your team. Why are you guys the most qualified person to solve this problem? Why can't an average Joe solve this problem? Because if you have understood the problem, you have found a solution. So do guys in sitting in China, India, South America, somewhere else, or Europe, right? So what qualifies you or your team to solve this problem, and why now? timing is very important, and I can tell you the failures that, or lessons, I don't like to call failures, lessons that I have learned through some of the startups I did have been that timing is the most important thing. MySpace versus Facebook. I mean, I can give you so many examples in the world which are there, right? And WhatsApp, I mean, perfect timing, right? I mean, Messenger, BlackBerry Messenger was going down. People were feeling the need for something like that. And of course, boom, timing, right? Does it mean they were the only company doing that solution? No, I can tell you at least 10 other companies who had similar solution, but they were there at the right time. So why now? Your understanding of the timing may be correct, may not be correct. Now you have to convince the client. And then next slide after that could be how big how big of a market opportunity is this, especially when you are presenting to an institutional investor. Now, of course, I got little ahead of many things here, started describing various elements of the pitch. But an important part in this is what kind of investor. Know thy customer, like they say, right? Know your customer, know the investor that you are going to be pitching to. If it is a friends and family, he'll be looking at different kind of things. If it is an angel investor, he will be looking at something else. But assuming it's an institutional investor, some things are common, of course, across all of them. He would want to know, an institutional investor wants to know how big of a market this is. And if market is large enough, then you have more room. I mean, there's room for more players, and you have room to pivot along the way, right? And so that's kind of very essential for you to describe the size of the market opportunity. And the slide after that would be business model. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to know how you are going to be selling this product, you're going to be making money out of this product. I mean, your business model, many of these things might change later, but at least your initial thought about this are very essential to put out. And then comes after that the traction. What traction? I mean, have you already built the product? You have presented to the some companies, and some companies have bought it, or to the users, and users have been trying it. Generally in today's market, and I can tell you from my gray hair that I have seen many companies and seen myself also. I have done, I mean, I have raised money on a paper napkin as well. I mean, my one of the first, I think second company, where the first company was doing quite well and we had raised good amount of money. So, and I left in between, and then second company, same set of investors, they just said, come back, come to us with an idea. So I had an idea pretty much on a paper napkin, and I met an investor for lunch, and I was going through all these things that I'm describing to you just in my head, and I told him over lunch, and he said, now put all these things in the deck and come to my partnership meeting. And I think, boom, we got the term sheet after that. But in today's market, traction is very important. Things are different. I'm talking 15 years ago, where developing a product used to take time. So sometimes you were able to raise money even for product development. In today's time, the investor expect you to have your initial product done, and you also have, I mean, initial product been completed, or they say the MPV, the minimum viable product, MVP, minimum viable product completed, and be ready for you to pitch, ready for you to go to the customer, or you already have gone to the customer. So traction in this, you will describe that you had the product idea, you got some maybe initial friends and family round of money, and you convince some of the co-founders to join you, some team members to be that you hired, and you also have this many downloads, installs, and things like that. I mean, that shows the traction that you've been getting. And then how repeatable is that traction? I mean, it's like you may have one customer in Timbuktu and one customer in some other, I mean, in Timbuktu, and then let's say in some Belize, and some customer somewhere else. I mean, you may have variety of customers, but I think repeatability is very essential. So my suggestion would be focus on one market, one set of customer, show repeatability as part of traction. That I have 10,000 downloads, and most of my clients have been the guys in their 20s, in their 30s, who are looking for X, Y, and Z, and they have downloaded. That shows repeatability. So if I get money, more money from you, I can just go further with millions of these downloads, and then hence a lot of money for all of us, right? Meaning a lot of successful company. So traction, in the traction part, you will cover that. And then last part, which I think at least in the industry I played in, which was very essential, you know, that defensibility of your business model or defensibility of your product. Now, some of that you can also cover in why you, I mean, why are you the most suitable person to do this? But I think defensibility, covering that defensibility separately is also not a bad idea, because the product may have certain elements which you may have, let's say, come up with, patentable idea. You may have come up with those ideas yourself. So singling those out, mentioning them clearly, calling them out, is very, I would say, a very important part of this. So I think, going back to, I mean, rehashing, so to me, pretty much, these are the, these are the slides you need to have. I have once or twice received a pitch deck which had 120 slides. Guess what did I do with it? You guessed it. Trashed it. I don't have time to read all those. Nobody has, right? So very essential for us to figure this out, that not to kill the investor with all this data, all this information that we want to tell him. Not more than 10 to 12 slides. And your first two slides that I mentioned, which describe a professional story, or sorry, describe your personal story, pain and response, right? Pain and response. What is a pain and what is a response to it? In a story, in a story manner, that's the most essential part for you. And then comes describing your problem in more detail, followed by the solution, again, pain and response. That's where you spend most of your time in your pitch. And then why you, why now, your business model, traction that you have gotten so far, and defensibility of your business model, or or your product. Pretty much more than that is too much in my view. Now let's get to some questions, which will also allow me to tell you more things that I may want to tell you and not coming to my mind. So, okay, good point. Ashwin Kumar, I will try to enhance my pitch to fit in the first two, three slides. Ashwin Kumar, I will try to enhance my pitch to fit in the first two, three slides. Very good, Ashwin. A good question. So I think a good comment from you. Thank you. And I think, again, as I said, you may get 30 minutes to, again, a type of investor. If it's your friend, then of course he may give you all the time in the world. But a good professional investor will not give you more than 30 minutes. And you have to be able to tell your story in the first two, three slides only. Now, I'm sure you are all familiar with the term that we often use. I mean, these are jargons we use in the startup world: elevator pitch, right? What is an elevator pitch? Many of you, who have been raising money, I'm sure, already know about it. Others, elevator pitch is that you are in an elevator with an investor. You have 30 seconds. You have to be able to describe your startup to him. He gets interested and tell, okay, see me in my office, gives you a card, see in my office tomorrow. Usually good investors do it like that. I mean, they don't want to lose an opportunity if you got their interest. If not, he'll say, he'll say, here's my card, call my assistant to set up meeting. Maybe we can meet after I come back from vacation. It means, बैठे रहो, जब तुम्हारा नंबर भी आएगा, होता है ना, अपना टाइम आएगा, तुम्हारा नंबर कभी आएगा, अभी नहीं है, not right now, later on, we'll talk later on. A good pitch which gets the interest of an investor, a savvy investor in an elevator. Those are the kind of companies which end up becoming your Dropbox and your Facebooks and all these, that names that we all know about. I mean, 30 seconds, if you can describe your startup, you have a winner at hand. If it takes you more than 5 sentences, I mean, go and perfect your pitch. Ashwin Kumar, next I have a question. What should we keep in mind while creating something which is there already and we are making it easy and better? And that's, I think, in especially in today's market where people are already looking for making things easier and better. And I mean, when Instagram, think how the Instagram guys would have pitched their startup when MySpace had failed and Facebook was already established as a big company. How would they have pitched? We are the only company which will allow you to share your pictures. We are the picture based social network. 5-second elevator pitch. Now, next, you still have 25 seconds where you can describe why people need that. Now, cameras are there in people's hand. They're taking picture. They want to tell, they want to share about their family, their friends, with their families and with their friends through pictures, not through write up, not through content. Line number 2. I mean, think about it, right? In 4 or 5 lines, you can describe Instagram, because now we all use Instagram, right? So you can describe that very well. And that is your elevator pitch, isn't it? So that's very important to understand how practice this using an existing product that you already are using. So in your case, if you're making something easier and better, generally I've seen people get tired of using in today's market a product that is already there in the market in 4 or 5 years. So there's always a market in every 4 or 5 years for something better to come. I mean, if you even kind of go back in the history, Instagram came exactly 5 or 6 years after Facebook, right? So I mean, I'm just taking Instagram as an example, but there are many. I mean, in my enterprise industry, there are many examples like that. I mean, in the database industry, I mean, you can keep going. I mean, there are many. So, but you need to see what makes it easier and better, not just say my better UI. I mean, it has to be something substantially better, right? So, something substantially easier and better. If you are able to describe that in 5 sentences, you're winner at hand. Yogesh Patil, does this apply if your product is for a corporate or company, say an ETL plugin? So, see, ETL plugin, now I don't know a whole lot about that market, but I can tell you this, that it has to be a large enough market. If it is just a term which we used to, or we still use in when we look at a pitch, is it a feature or a product, right? So you will hear that term if you start pitching to investors. Is this a feature or a product? Oh, we invest in products, not in features. They will tell you that, right? Because sometimes you say, well, uh, I am doing I'll give you an example. A there was a time when, or still is, finding duplicate files in your computer, in your enterprise, rather in your enterprise, was a big problem because it's taking a lot of space. I mean, you have same copies of multiple copies of the same file across various volumes and like that. Now, in a computer, if you see, it's a feature. It's a small product. It's a small thing that you download, and most of the times it's free. But when you look at an enterprise level, it actually becomes a product. So there were products which came. I think DataDupe was the company itself. There are many companies which try to come up with a storage system or a storage software which will go across your enterprise to find duplicate files and then tell you the full dashboard. Now, though, many of those features are getting included in various data management softwares. It is evolved. So some data management software companies bought those DataDupe companies, which were already well established, and made this now as a feature. But at that time, it was a product. So think about your ETL plugin like this. Is it a product or a feature? If it's a feature, then it'll be a problem for you to actually pitch to your pitch or get investment for. But if it's a product, yes. So product versus a feature. Vishwak, how to overcome the fear that investors might copy our idea after our pitch and start their own venture and product? This is a very good question, Vishwak, and I can tell you it has happened personally to me. I was in the enterprise market, in the data storage market, and my first startup, and I I mean, I think it was a. I'm trying to remember. I think when we were pitching, it was a storage virtualization product. I mean, at that time, virtualization at the server level and all VMware were already established, and at the storage level, people didn't really know a whole lot. And we came up with a good data management software and a chip or a product, a router around it, which where it will run to be able to become part of your storage network. And as we started pitching, we realized very soon realized that there was another company in Boston which was already there, I mean, funded and all, but now they changed their pitch to start talking about storage virtualization in their router, and it was not part of their pitch earlier. So they did copy our idea. But I can tell you another thing today: ideas are galore. I mean, idea with internet and everything else that we have, social media, it's not the idea that matters these days. It is your understanding of the problem and your understanding of how your solution can solve that problems and why you are why now. That actually will tell an investor whether you are rightly suited to solve that problem or not. And in case you have some traction already, so, so in short, it's not the idea, that execution that matters more. I mean, I have said that as a quote also in my social media recently, that ideas are many, but it's the execution that matters in today's time, because that is difficult. So many people may have the same idea, many people may put that idea in their pitch, but how well you are going to execute, or you are already in the process of executing, that depends whether you will get funded or not. I hope I've answered your question, Chandrasekhar. Email pitch, we hardly got any interest with P versus people were curious, interested when I made elevator pitch or in person. Is this typical? Yes, of course, because it also means that your what your the pitch that you have made, you are a better storyteller than the pitch that you are sending to people. It means you are able to connect emotionally in describing your solution than your pitch. So change your pitch a bit. And emailing is in emailing pitch, you know, I mean, there are certain other elements which are more important. uh, Pictures, I mean, sometimes you can use pictures to describe your solution. Pictures worth thousand word, goes the old saying. So they tell the story a lot better than it's a word document. But there also you can use the help of pictures to describe your story. Very essential there. So I think that's kind of, you can take hint from there, that your pitch has to be perfected. चलता हुआ बिजनेस अचानक से बंद होने लगता है, कमलेश शर्मा. Yeah, this problem is different, Kamlesh, than if chalta hua business. I don't know whether I understand your problem completely or not. If your business is running, I mean, see, there are many businesses which do not come under this category of what I'm talking about here, where you are to raise money. Um, a I think what we call as I think you'll see soon a video in my on my channel where I talk about dhanda versus a startup entrepreneurial business. These are two different things. Dhanda means a brokerage business, or a business of trading and all that. I mean, those are different businesses. Very rarely they are able to raise money from other investors. What we are here talking about, some unique idea. I mean, a startup or an entrepreneurial business has a unique idea or a unique execution of an idea that already exists. So then that comes under different category. And I think, but yes, even there you find a company goes through certain stages. I mean, initially you're able to raise money, first round, second round, and you're able to get some initial customers, and then you find you're stuck, you're not growing further. Market has changed. I mean, that's where you need to be able to pivot. One of the reasons why investors always look for a large enough market, so that there is room for pivoting later on, because markets are not in your control. Things which are under your control, product development, your own team building, those are under your control. But rest of the things are not in your control. I mean, how the market behaves, users, consumer, I mean, other products come into the market and They already start fulfilling half of their needs. Now they feel this is, I don't need another product. And then your product becomes a feature of the product they already have. So there are complications that come. I mean, startup is not for faint hearted, as I always say. I mean, you have to be able to uh, stay awake at night, carry a good pillow. Now, I think one thing which I do want to talk about here is how do I evaluate? I mean, every investor, and I also tell you here that every investor has a peculiar thing that they look at. And usually that thing comes out of their own experience. Like in my case, I evaluate companies on the basis of the passion I see in the entrepreneur. Because I think that passion will help him be able to not only raise more money beyond the money that I'm going to give him, which is usually at the angel level, but also be able to convince a lot of other people to come in as in the angel round, and also be able to become part of larger round later on, and customers. And that passion can carry him forward, because that he has to be on a journey for 6 7 years here, and without passion he won't be able to. So I look at the passion, and of course his understanding of the market and traction and all that. One company that I think it has been maybe more than 6 months that I had invested in was called Amham. That was an app. Actually, it was a wellness app. And as many of you know, that I'm a heartfulness practitioner, and though that app Amham had not just heartfulness meditation but also had many other meditation, but their concept was very unique, and they focused more uh, on the language part. I mean, that app was available in 20 or plus languages. I mean, the largest, and that in terms of traction, they had the most traction in Iran and in Russia. I mean, out of all the people, all the countries. I mean, that's what. So traction thing checked out pretty well. The passion of the I mean, or unique, I would say, defensibility or the uniqueness of the app checked out pretty well. But what really was the selling part for me was how he sold himself or the company to me was a passion that founder had. I mean, that guy was one of the most passionate guy about wellness and about really doing what he was doing. And I wish him well. I hope he does well. But I mean, it's rest is up to, I guess, him and and the market and everything else. But that's what I look at, how I evaluate the company. And because I think with the passion he will learn, of course, and how the changing market will help him pivot his product and things like that. And then, you know other one something that I want to also share. I mean, many of you know that I do practice heartfulness meditation, and that aspect of my life has always helped me through my entrepreneurial journey, because there are going to be several moments of despair, confusion, disappointment, frustration, and many things like this in your journey. And something to keep you grounded, something to keep you closer to what really matters to you is very essential. And I have shared this in some other discussions, videos, that when my first startup, which I had no idea of doing a startup, that was not 30 years ago, or almost 2001. I mean, that is 21 years ago, actually. And there were not many mentors, or there were not many startups around, at least in Atlanta. And I didn't have many mentors or any mentors, or so it was hard. Me and my co-founder would go around making pitches, and I know after every pitch, a set of pitches we'll make to investors, he'll come home with all the rejections, and I won't see him for 2 days, because he was perhaps having sleepless nights. What is going to happen? And we couldn't take the rejection. I mean, we both were senior execs in a company making $500,000 a year, and left those to start this company. So I'm sure that disappointment was difficult for him to handle. Whereas I would be back in the office next day morning, sunny and bright, but I mean, like up and running, or And he used to wonder. And I say, well, I go home, do my cleaning, and in the morning I get up and do meditation, and I'm fine. I've forgotten all about it. The impact of those things was a lot less on me because of meditation and than him. I mean, I think that's why I say it's not for faint-hearted. So I think having a spiritual practice, having a wellness practice is very essential to keep you going in this. And I think there's some more questions. It says, Vishwak, in what situation is it recommended to have a bootstrap and in what case we can go for funding? So I think initial part in today's market. Now, if I tell you today's market, the companies I look at, they do bootstrapped is the way to go actually for a good part. I mean, and overall, whether you should go for venture funding or not, you should determine based on the size of the market and based on whether the product, I mean, has a potential of becoming a billion-dollar product. I mean, especially institutional investors. So the category of investors. Bootstrap, if it is a feature, you just want a lifestyle business, a services business, or some other kind of, that bootstrapped is a way to go. They don't try to raise money. If you think the product has potential, like somebody says ETL product, try this out, develop a product, try out with some angel funding, right? In some angel funding of 100,000, 200,000, up to 500,000, try out the product, see you're gaining traction, and people are able to pay money for that. I mean, why feature versus product? Because people don't pay money for features. They expect that feature. They tell their existing vendor, hey, add this feature in the next round of the product. So that's why they say feature versus a product, because people don't pay for features. So I hope you get the idea. So if it's a feature, it's a smaller thing, then you may be able to take it forward with small amount of angel funding, and then pray and wish somebody may buy you so that it becomes feature of a larger product, right? So that journey is different. Then comes a journey where you think you have a defensible product which has ability to become a billion-dollar company. Go for funding, go for VC funding, because only then you will have professional help to be able to take the product to its real heights, right? That's why people, I mean, you not only get money, but you also get professional help from the venture capital, because they are in it for making money. So theirs and your interests become aligned, right? So at that point in time, I hope I've answered your question. Next question, the Yogesh Patel, does this apply if your product is for a corporate or companies? Okay, sorry, I think that question we've already covered. ETL plugin we have already covered. So I think that's one last thing I wanted to cover is, can we go and ask for, can we make pitches to VCs during recession? Now, I had mentioned earlier to you guys, knowing your investor is very important. The early stage of COVID time was challenging equally for, I would say, entrepreneurs and investors. Why equally for investors as well? Because investors had their existing investments, and they were spending most of their time in advising, mentoring those entrepreneurs where they have invested in how to manage the situation during COVID when there are so many uncertainties around. In some cases, they were saying, let's package the company to sell, let's package the company to shut down, let's package the company to reduce our expenses so that we come out stronger on the other side of pandemic. So they were spending most of their time, so they were not looking at new pitches. So when you talk about recession, there are phases of recession. So early part, they all are busy in helping, in hand holding their existing investments. So they may not look at anything new. But generally, they go by quarter. I mean, the second quarter of COVID, I saw that people did start looking at newer. I mean, because COVID presented a new market, a new set of challenges. Now, from those challenges, some existing for entrepreneurs and investors wanted to look at wellness company during COVID, because I saw that as a perfect entry for a wellness product in various markets. I mean, there are many companies like this, Headspace and all, in markets like US and India now, but not such things are, not many such things are there in Russia, Iran. I mean, those are, or China for that matter. And that was a perfect market for a product like Amham. So like that, I mean, the third quarter, fourth quarter, I mean, if you see recession actually in general is a good time, though the number of investments made by investors during recession time are less because they all are busy taking their existing companies and they are all trying to see how the market is behaving. But for a good entrepreneur who is actually able to understand that market and pivot his pitch to that changing market, is a perfect time. So I think I would suggest you look at the market when you're presenting your pitch, present it in a manner that it takes into account the changing market. One of the companies I'm advising now is actually is in creating a good experience for you during your visit to restaurants, and I feel it's a perfect time for that market. That because what do you see outside? I mean, you go out to a market and you see restaurants are full. I mean, these days, even in Atlanta, I mean, downtown Alpharetta, I mean, you have half hour wait whenever you want to go to a restaurant. I mean, people people are in the splurging mode post COVID, and I mean, theaters, flights, you don't get tickets. Theaters, you don't get tickets. So anyone who is focusing on creating a good shopping experience, good restaurant eating experience, good movie watching experience, I think is in for a winner. You need to understand the problem and come up with this right solution for that. But I think that's some another idea. Akash Rastogi, whom to pitch to eradicate national debt in a certain timeline and elevating nation's image at an international level, and the ways of pitching and way forward. Good luck, Akash. Pitch to your prime minister or the president of the country. They are the responsible people for this, or finance minister or finance secretary in case of US. Good luck with solving this problem, because this problem has many elements to it, and some of it is what politicians want to do. It's not or will to do. I mean, they don't want to do it. That's the major reason. There's no other reason but that. But I think if you have a smarter idea, I'm sure you start with your finance minister or finance secretary. And I mean, we already have seen this movie play out in case of UK, where they had the shortest tenured prime minister, I think the lady, and they changed the prime minister kind of within 60 days or something, just because she had different idea of national debt or national, I guess, inflation handling and something like that, or economy, overall economy. And she was not successful, and she saw things going south very fast. So I think, I mean, this is a very big problem, but if you have a unique way of solving it, I'll start with them. Because no investor is going to be able to, you can't make money out of this. I'll doubt how you're going to make money out of it. This is not a business model based. This is more of a policy based problem, or problem which requires policy changes and all. So, but good luck with this. I'm glad you're thinking along those lines though. So if there are no other questions, I think we can end this session. I hope you subscribe to my channels and continue to, watch the videos that I produce. And I can tell you that every time I visit my clients and they tell me that, oh, they like so much watching these videos that I record. So that keeps me motivated to keep doing this. So your comments, your feedback is valuable. So I think I'm looking forward to your feedback to this session as well. Thanks a lot for joining in today, and I'll keep watching my videos and my channel. See you soon. Thank you.